Welcome to the latest of my deep dive videos. Today I want to explore what I feel is a truly important, even historical event. The Sun moves into the sign of Sagittarius on the 21st of November, universal, but Pluto moved back into Aquarius on the 19th of November for the third time. The two are going to align in a sextile on the 23rd of November. Now that sextile is, to me, gripping, because if we think about the two zodiac signs, the Sun in Sagittarius is where it can be fearless, independent, outspoken, very much to do with international affairs, borders, travel, can be optimistic and open-minded, but of course also it can be a seeker of truth and higher knowledge. But then the sign of Aquarius also likes its freedom. The co-ruler of the sign of Aquarius, Uranus, is very much about those higher truths too. So there is a simpatico between the two energies. Pluto can be about transformation. The Sun is the driver, that engine of fire which is going to ignite possibilities. But because this is coming right at the start of Pluto's third entry into the sign of Aquarius and didn't happen on its two previous visits during this cycle. So just to summarise, for 11 weeks in 23 from the end of March, and this year from the 21st of January, its birthday, through to the 2nd of September. But at no time was it connecting to the Sun in Sagittarius. Now it is. So what does this mean? I feel it's very profound. But the really interesting thing is, of course, that Pluto takes 248 years to go through its cycle. It's also about 226 years since it was last in Aquarius. But what about when it first went into Aquarius, those 248 years ago? Because that was 1779. And when that occurred and the Sun applied to Pluto in a sextile, gives us a snapshot moment, just like this year's does as well. But you know, those two snapshot moments are incredibly similar. They both have a ruler in Leo, and they both have Mars, very much the planet of assertion, but ego, right in the mix. Please stay with me as I unpack all of this for you. I really think it's something that is going to be a seed energy which will play out over the long term, because of course Pluto's going to be in Aquarius through to 243, will make its way into Pisces through its 5-monthly yearly rotation backwards. It will go back to Aquarius before terminating back in Pisces in 244. But it's what's going to play out over that longer term that's so significant. If you want to check out my Pluto in Aquarius and year 2025 deep dive forecast, please click on the link within this video. But I should just say, you can also click on your year 2025 zodiac deep dive forecast by clicking on the link underneath this video. And you can understand exactly what's going to go on for each of those 12 signs. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. If you're new to my channel, it's great to have your company. If you're a returning visitor, all your views and interactions are truly appreciated. As I've shared recently, about 50% of people who watch my videos frequently are not subscribers. Please help to send the right signal to YouTube by subbing, by clicking that bell notification symbol. But also, if you would like, comment. All comments are welcome. This is very much a community. Or share. I'd really appreciate that too. Now, I'm a consultant astrologer. If you'd like to have a one-to-one with me, please check out my testimonials. I don't edit these. As they come in, I share as is. You can see how other people have found working with me. If you'd like to take advantage of my year 2025 personal horoscope forecast offer, you can get the rest of this year free, but also your life roadmap report, 30% off, but also my free gift of your zodiac general, love, Chinese and Vedic forecast. Please see the link below for more. It's great value and will give you searing insights to guide your moves over the next 12 months. If you're a patron, thank you so much for your support. Patrons, you're really appreciated. You can become a patron for $3 a month. Also, my wife and I are going to share an update for patrons. We haven't been able to share an update for some while for a variety of reasons, but please look out for that. We will be sharing that soon. So on the screen now is the event chart for the 23rd of November 1779 at 8:29 p.m. I've based this on Universal, not because I'm in the UK, but because of the prime meridian. And I do feel it enables us all to collectively relate to the charts. And you can see there's the sun having just moved into Sagittarius, but also just coming off a conjunction with Saturn. So that's a very serious energy, of course. But look at Mars. So Mars is in a sextile, but look at Pluto. Pluto and Mars, the two rulers of Scorpio. And of course, Mars is about that punch and thrust, can be more democratic in Aquarius perhaps, certainly a freedom fighter. And at this period of history, obviously the American War of Independence was really starting to pick up pace. We had Spain sign a treaty to support French troops against English or United Kingdom troops. Looking back then, it was interesting to see how all the different loyalties have shifted. You know, you also had a treaty signed between Russia, Denmark and Finland, I think, that asked or demanded that the British stop searching merchant vessels. Incredible. But it was a lot to do with people feeling that they needed to have their voices heard. And that's really what Pluto in Aquarius is going to become in some ways about. There are going to be lots of different influences. In my opinion, Pluto in Aquarius is not a panacea for some of what some people see are all the faults of Pluto in Capricorn. But we can see that there is that sextile, and of course the path of fortune is in the mix as well. But look at that ascendant. There it is, 2 degrees in Leo. So it does mean that that 5th house energy is very much about expression. It's expression, but it's expression with meaning because of Saturn being so much in the mix. And with Pluto in the 6th house, we're seeing a revision to the structures of the world. But with Mars on the 7th house, that's quite a warlike stance. That's saying, I'm setting my boundaries. So it would be wrong to say that we didn't note that at that time, the United Kingdom or Britain was this little island that wanted to have a lot of power and control over a lot of places. And that didn't work for the emerging American nation. It wasn't working for other countries too. Look how Britain's stock has fallen. But of course, we've got other world players now that want to assert themselves in a very vigorous and rugged way. China, Russia, North Korea, Iran. Now you may feel that I'm missing out the United States, I'm missing out the European Union in terms of the use of physical force. I happen to think that Putin is at the heart, along with the Chinese, for an awful lot of problems in the world. You might not agree with me, but I feel that Britain has been replaced by these other global players that want to dominate people. So the interesting thing, I won't have time today, but I can look at it again. I have looked at it in the past with China. So if you look at China's natal chart, Pluto will apply to that. It also applies to its secondary chart and also its directions. Pluto is going to be a massive influence with China over the next few years. So you know that famous politician and his view on China. He's not wrong, you know, whatever you might think of him. But let's look at what's going on this year. So the 21st of November 2024, we have the Sun sextile Pluto. But this time, the Sun's still in house 5 because the ascendant, nearly the same as all those years ago, at 6 degrees and 21, but there's Mars. Mars, therefore, is just tucked behind the 1st house, the 12th house, espionage, things that go on nefariously. We've just had some sea cables cut. Anyone who thinks, for example, that Pluto into Aquarius will bring some kind of wonderful new future, well, all the students that had the bravery to protest in Hong Kong initially have just all been jailed. And of course we have had some more powerful munitions have been fired towards Russia. That's just happened. But maybe that's also because someone is leaving office, but we got a lot of very forceful energies going on still, whichever side of the equation you might see your view. And Mars in the 12th house can be secret enemies. So we need to be very, very conscious of what we don't necessarily see as a threat could be a threat. So Mars is in an opposition to Pluto. They're going to come into an exact opposition on the 3rd of January. And that's one of astrology's most challenging and warlike influences. But we do have the Sun in 5, linking back to Pluto yet again, like all those years ago in house 6. So the way we're creative but also productive is a lot to do with what's going on. So we also have an industrial revolution going on. We've had many of them, whether it has been to do with greater use of machinery. It's always been the case, hasn't it? If we go back to the late 1800s, the amount of people per acre that would cultivate that land would be hundreds, and now it's probably one person in a very big cab with all these digital aids to keep them company, and they probably look after a vast amount of land on their own. So we're always going to have technology shifting and moving, but the significance of these two players coming together is I feel that they can in their own way be very futuristic, because essentially the Sun in Sagittarius will always eventually try to resist being controlled, and the position of Pluto in Aquarius has similar characteristics, but it is going to be more difficult in order for individual citizens to feel heard. We might be able to say something on our new Blue Sky account, and maybe some people will read it, and if it is something that's really significant, it can become obviously a very big story. So everyone's a publisher these days, which in itself is a fantastic thing. It's just it doesn't get used enough with care, and of course there's no monitoring of that. So a newspaper, if they write something controversial, can be sued. If someone else shares something controversial on a social media platform, they can almost get away with anything. So a newspaper has much higher costs. You may say, I don't care about newspapers. They've never been particularly fair or honest in the past. What they've got coming to them is what they deserve. That's karma. But I actually feel we do need people questioning it and penetrating into power. Otherwise, power gets unrestrained. And we have seen, because people have such an immense amount of control over media platforms, they can control the narrative, and that is not good for society. So although we can think about Aquarius and Pluto as being about us all individually but also collectively, it can be dystopian, it can be very cool, detached, remote. You know, more and more people live at home. The biggest killer in society, I would imagine, is isolation, is loneliness. And if you can't get through just to report a simple problem with your electricity or some other public service because it's just not designed for human contact, that's very detached as well. That's not very warm and caring and connected. So society has got some rethinking to do in some ways. But over these years through to 2043, I feel this particular link between the Sun in Sagittarius and Pluto in Aquarius is going to be fantastically helpful. And whilst at the moment things could look rather dismal in some ways, we are going to see a reset. That reset will be coming. It will be optimistic in some ways, but there will be some new realities coming. For example, we'll probably all have more space. We won't probably be dominated quite as much by physical labour and by applying ourselves in terms of our time. So that freedom side of both the influences is going to come to pass, but there also is a chance for us all to collectively come together to push back at what isn't working. And at the moment, I feel people are so polarized, they can't really see that we do need to collaborate and cooperate. Very Aquarius. We can all be very stuck in our dogma, which can, to a degree, be Sagittarius, because Jupiter can be about whoever speaks loudest will get heard the most, or whoever keeps repeating a simple message, even if it's not true, will essentially brainwash people into believing that it is a reality. But what you're going to find with these two players, or these two influences, over time, and it may take some time, we are going to see a reset in a much more constructive way. What we need to do at this exact moment is get rid of some of these awful totalitarian regimes, which are bringing a lot of misery to bear, even if our so-called materialistic free world is far from perfect. So please join me at that Pluto deep dive and your year 2025 forecast for Pluto, but also your year 2025 forecast by clicking on the link underneath this video. Thank you, take care, all best.